The vast expanse of space lay still, almost unnervingly quiet, as the alien fleet approached Earth. Thousands of ships, their dark hulls glimmering with an unnatural sheen, glided through the void, their cloaking technology rendering them nearly invisible to the human eye. Humanity had been living under the shadow of these eye-controlled invaders for years. Since the first wave of attacks, Earth's defenses had been crumbling. The Earth Defense Force, EDF, despite their best efforts, had failed to stop the relentless onslaught of advanced alien technology. The aliens had outclassed human weapons, and their artificial intelligence had made them far more efficient in battle than any human force could ever hope to be. Inside the command center, Major Emily Calloway stood in front of a massive holographic display, her eyes narrowed with exhaustion. The map of Earth was spread before her, showing the progress of the alien fleet, creeping ever closer to the planet's surface. She had seen this moment before, when the end of humanity seemed inevitable. But this time, it felt different. The aliens' cloaking devices made their ships impossible to detect. The EDF satellites, usually reliable in tracking enemy movements, were powerless against the invisible threat. "Where are they?" Emily muttered to herself. Her voice, normally steady and commanding, was filled with frustration. She turned to her communications officer, who was busy trying to get a reading on the alien ships. The man's face was pale, his fingers trembling on the console. "We can't see them, Major. They've got us blind. We don't know how many ships are out there, or where they're going. The moment they drop their cloaks, it'll be too late," he said, his voice low and defeated. Emily knew the odds. The aliens were not only superior in technology, but they had also learned how to disable Earth's best defensive systems. Their eye was capable of anticipating human tactics before the first shot was fired. And as the alien ships moved closer, Earth's military seemed helpless. They couldn't even track the fleet's movements, let alone stop them. But then, just as all hope seemed lost, a sharp beeping noise cut through the silence of the command center. "Wait, what's that?" Emily's head snapped to the side as she heard the sound, the beeping growing louder. Her team scrambled to identify the source. At first, it seemed like another malfunction, just another glitch in the system. But then, the impossible happened. A signal appeared on the radar, a signal from an old Earth satellite that had been abandoned years ago. It was weak, distorted, but unmistakable. "We've got something." A voice rang out from one of the tech specialists, his eyes wide with disbelief. It's an old satellite. The signal's coming from it." Emily stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. If the signal was real, if it wasn't some alien trick, it could be the breakthrough they needed. "Can you track it?" she asked, trying to keep her voice calm despite the rising tension. The specialist tapped a few keys on his console, and the signal began to clear up, showing a faint map. As the data decoded, Emily felt a surge of hope. This wasn't just a random signal. It was a message, and it wasn't coming from space. It was coming from somewhere deep within Earth itself. "It's a location," the technician said, his voice shaking. "There's a weapon buried here on Earth, a weapon that could disrupt the eye's cloaking technology." Emily's heart skipped a beat. Could it be true? Could this be the key to turning the tide? If the humans could use this weapon, they might finally have a fighting chance against the alien fleet. But there was a catch. The weapon was located in a remote, highly dangerous area, deep within enemy-held territory. "Who can we send?" Emily asked, her voice steady, but her mind racing. The room went silent as everyone processed the information. This was a suicide mission. The aliens controlled the skies, the land, and even the seas. To reach the weapon would mean crossing alien lines, avoiding patrols, and fighting against an enemy that knew every move before it was made. Major Emily Calloway didn't hesitate. She had led her soldiers through battles before, but this was different. This was their last hope. "I'll lead the team," she said, her voice cold and determined. "Get me a small strike team. We're moving out now." Her decision was met with silence. The men and women in the room knew what this meant. This could be the end of the line for them. But Emily's unwavering confidence gave them hope. Hope that they hadn't felt in a long time. As the team gathered their weapons and prepared for the dangerous journey ahead, Emily felt a familiar rush of adrenaline. They were outnumbered. They were outgunned. But they had something the aliens didn't: the will to fight. And they were going to make it count. The countdown had begun. With every passing second, the alien fleet drew closer to Earth, preparing to launch their final attack. But for Emily and her team, it was a race against time. The weapon was the only chance they had left. If they didn't activate it in time, the alien forces would destroy everything. With the weight of humanity's survival resting on her shoulders, Emily Calloway led her team into the unknown, knowing that the fate of the entire planet was in their hands. The clock was ticking, and the last stand had begun. The cold, dimly lit tunnels stretched out beneath the city, a labyrinth of hidden paths that led to one of humanity's last hopes: the underground resistance. It was a place where the brave few fought to keep Earth from total destruction. Dr. Jacob Stone, a brilliant scientist with a mind as sharp as his resolve, was the leader of this ragtag group. For years, Dr. Stone and his team had been studying the weaknesses of the eye-controlled invaders. They had learned how to disrupt their systems, how to hack their technology, and how to fight back using whatever they could. In the hidden depths of the Resistance's base, the air was thick with tension. Maps of alien territories covered the walls, and various pieces of salvaged alien tech lay scattered across the workbenches. The team was small, but they were resourceful. Their most powerful weapon was their ingenuity, and they had used it to make a series of small victories against the aliens. EMP pulses had successfully disabled alien surveillance, sabotaged robots had been turned against their creators, and hacked alien tech had given them a few crucial advantages. But these victories had come at a great cost. Every small success was met with a crushing loss. The aliens retaliated with merciless force, wiping out entire resistance cells. And now, their latest tragedy weighed heavily on the hearts of everyone in the underground base. Sergeant Bonner, a veteran soldier who had been with the Resistance since its inception, was gone. He had been like a father figure to the team, strong, dependable, and full of wisdom. His death had shaken everyone to their core. Bonner had always led from the front, inspiring his men and women with his courage and selflessness. When the aliens ambushed their last safe house, Bonner had held the line, buying precious time for the rest of the team to escape. His last words had been a simple command: keep fighting. And they had, just barely. Emily Calloway, who had been close to Bonner, could still feel the raw emotional pain of losing him. His death was a wound that ran deep, and she knew that it was a wound shared by the entire Resistance. But it was also a spark that fueled her determination. Bonner's sacrifice hadn't been in vain. He had given everything for the cause, and now it was time for Emily and the others to finish what he had started. The mission to activate the weapon had become personal for her. She owed it to Bonner, to the Resistance, and to every soldier who had fallen before them, to ensure that the alien forces were defeated once and for all. In the heart of the underground base, the soldiers gathered, preparing for their next move. They were going after the weapon, the key to breaking the aliens' cloaking technology. But they knew that the path ahead wouldn't be easy. They had no illusions about what lay ahead. The alien forces were relentless, and they had been hunting down the Resistance for years. Every step they took, every move they made, was watched closely by the invaders. But Emily couldn't stop now. She couldn't turn back. As the team geared up, Dr. Stone gathered them in the briefing room. His face, usually calm and collected, was marked with the exhaustion of years spent in this war. He looked each of them in the eye as he spoke. "We don't have much time. We've decoded the signal, and we know the weapon's location," Dr. Stone said. "But the aliens are aware of our presence. They'll be waiting for us. This mission will be dangerous, possibly our last. But if we succeed, we'll have the means to disrupt their technology and give the rest of the world a fighting chance. It's now or never." Emily nodded, tightening the straps on her combat gear. The team was ready. They were all in this together. Just as they prepared to head out, the warning alarms blared throughout the underground base. The alien forces had found them. A cold rush of fear swept through Emily, but she quickly pushed it aside. She couldn't afford to be afraid. Not now. Not when so much was on the line. The walls shook with the sound of heavy footsteps, the distant clank of alien synth warriors, robotic soldiers built for close-quarters combat. These machines were relentless, engineered to wipe out any human resistance. They were faster, stronger, and far more advanced than any human soldier. And now, they were closing in on the resistance base. "Get ready," Emily shouted, grabbing her rifle and leading the charge out of the room. Her team followed, weapons drawn, ready for whatever was about to come. The moment they emerged from the safe room, all hell broke loose. Explosions rang out as the alien warriors charged forward, their glowing red eyes fixed on their targets. The resistance soldiers fired back, their guns blazing in the dim light. The air was filled with the deafening sounds of laser fire, the metallic screech of robots being torn apart, and the thundering impact of explosives. Emily fought her way through the chaos, her heart pounding with adrenaline as she cut down alien soldiers. But amidst the frenzy, she caught sight of something that made her stomach churn. Sergeant Bonner, his lifeless body sprawled on the ground in a pool of blood, had made his last stand here. At this very spot. He had fought until the very end, taking down as many of the invaders as he could before he fell. His face, now frozen in an expression of determination, haunted Emily. His sacrifice wasn't in vain. She wouldn't let it be. Through the chaos, Emily's resolve hardened. She knew what she had to do. They had to reach the weapon, no matter the cost. The firefight raged on as Emily and her team pressed forward, cutting down the alien synth warriors one by one. The resistance wasn't giving up. Not now. Not after everything they had lost. And as the sound of gunfire echoed through the tunnels, Emily knew that the mission wasn't just about the weapon anymore. It was about honoring those who had given their lives for the cause. It was about finishing what Bonner had started, and making sure humanity had a future to fight for. Emily's team had made it. After narrowly escaping the ambush in the underground resistance base, they had pushed through the chaos and managed to reach their destination, the weapon. But the journey had only just begun. They stood at the entrance to an ancient ruin, deep within the heart of a forgotten civilization. The air was thick with the smell of dust and decay, and the shadows seemed to swallow them whole as they moved forward, weapons ready. The ruins were vast, stretching out in all directions, a silent testament to a time long gone. But what lay hidden here could change everything for humanity. The AI disruptor, a weapon capable of disabling the aliens' most powerful technology, was their only hope. It had been buried for centuries, a relic from an ancient Earth civilization that had once fought against a threat like the one now sweeping across the stars. No one knew how it had come to be here, but the resistance had finally tracked it down. Emily could feel the weight of the moment. They had no more time to waste. The alien fleet was on its way, and every second they spent here brought them closer to the edge of disaster. They had to activate the disruptor before it was too late. "Get ready," Emily whispered to her team as they cautiously moved into the heart of the ruins. The disruptor was located in a chamber at the center of the structure. It was a massive device, ancient yet still intact, its surface glowing faintly with a strange energy. But before they could even approach the device, a sudden whirring sound broke the silence. The team froze, weapons raised. Something was coming. Out of the shadows, a sleek, black alien AI drone appeared. It hovered in midair, its metallic body reflecting the dim light from the device. The drone's eyes, red and glowing, locked onto Emily and her team. It was a combat intelligence unit, designed to counteract any human strategy with brutal efficiency. The team had barely stepped into the chamber when the drone launched a surprise attack. Before anyone could react, the drone fired a pulse of energy, narrowly missing Emily as she dove to the ground. The air around them crackled with energy, the ground trembling as the drone began to circle them. It was fast, precise, and deadly. Unlike the synth warriors they had fought earlier, this drone had been designed for one purpose: to stop them from reaching the disruptor. Emily's heart raced as she tried to regain her footing. Her mind raced through their options. They had no chance of outsmarting this drone. Every tactic they tried was met with an immediate counterattack. Its armor was too strong, and its weapons were too advanced. Every time the team tried to flank it, the drone adapted, moving faster and firing harder. They were being pushed back, and it felt like the walls were closing in around them. "Fall back," Emily shouted, but the team didn't have anywhere to run. The chamber was too small, and the walls were closing in fast. The drone was too powerful for them to defeat with their current weapons. The team scattered, firing their weapons in all directions, hoping to make a dent in the drone's defenses. But it was no use. They were outmatched, outgunned, and out of time. In the heat of the battle, Emily's mind flashed back to a moment with Sergeant Bonner. Before he had died, he had taught her a valuable lesson. Never rely on conventional tactics when facing an enemy that adapts. You had to think outside the box, use anything you could find as a weapon. It was the only way to have a chance against an enemy that could anticipate your every move. As she dodged another energy blast, Emily noticed a broken pipe lying on the ground nearby. It wasn't much, but in this moment, it could be the key. Without thinking, she grabbed the pipe, ripping it from the floor with a strength she didn't know she had. She had no idea what she was going to do with it, but she knew she had to act fast. With the drone closing in, Emily made a desperate move. She hurled the pipe toward the drone, using all her strength to launch it into the air. The drone's sensors picked up the movement, and in that split second of distraction, Emily saw her chance. She grabbed a plasma grenade from her belt and charged, ignoring the burning pain in her legs from the previous fight. The drone reacted instantly, trying to adjust, but it was too late. Emily threw the grenade directly at the drone, the explosion sending out a shockwave that rocked the chamber. For a moment, everything went silent. Then, a deafening crash. The drone's systems had been overloaded by the blast, its circuits fried. It plummeted to the ground with a horrible screech, its body sparking and smoking as it crashed into the floor. Emily's team rushed in, making sure the drone was truly disabled before taking a moment to catch their breath. They were alive. By sheer luck, strategy, and a little improvisation, they had survived. The team had won this battle, but they were running out of time. The alien fleet would soon be here, and they still had one last task to complete. Emily looked down at the now disabled drone. Its red eyes had faded to a dull glow. They had faced down their toughest enemy yet, and they had won. But that victory felt hollow as she turned her attention back to the disruptor. "We need to activate it now," she said, her voice cold with determination. They had no choice. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and they couldn't afford to fail now. With the drone down and the weapon within reach, the team finally moved forward. They rushed to the device, ready to activate it and give humanity a fighting chance against the alien menace. The battle was far from over, but this was a pivotal moment in the war. With the disruptor in their hands, they could change everything. The countdown had begun. But the real fight was only just starting. After narrowly escaping the drone and surviving the deadly battle in the ruins, Emily and her team made their way back to the surface, the AI disruptor now in their hands. But the situation had only grown more dire. The alien fleet was now in position, hovering ominously above Earth. From their position, they could see the massive ships in orbit, their advanced weaponry ready to strike. The battle was no longer just about the surface of the planet. It was about the survival of the human race itself. As the team made their way to the command center, Emily's thoughts raced. The AI's mainframe had been quiet for too long. She knew the enemy was planning something catastrophic. Suddenly, a chilling alert blared across the communication channels. The AI had activated its ultimate weapon, a planet-crushing device capable of wiping out entire cities with a single shot. It was a doomsday weapon, a last-ditch effort to ensure humanity's extinction. The countdown to destruction had begun. Emily's heart pounded in her chest. If they couldn't stop the weapon from firing, there would be no Earth left to save. She had one hope: the disruptor. They needed to hack into the alien fleet's communication systems and shut down their defenses. It was a long shot, but it was all they had left. Without wasting a moment, Emily ordered her team to set up the AI disruptor. As they worked, the countdown to the weapon's activation ticked down. The fate of Earth was on a razor's edge. The pressure was immense, but they couldn't afford to fail. Then, a miracle happened. The disruptor worked. The alien ships, once hidden behind their advanced cloaking technology, suddenly became visible. The stealth advantage that had made the alien fleet nearly unbeatable was gone. The ships, once invisible to all human detection, were now exposed for the world to see. The Earth Defense Force, EDF, was ready. They had been waiting for this moment, the moment when the alien fleet would no longer be able to hide. As the EDF launched their full-scale assault, the sky lit up with the flashes of laser fire and explosions. Ships dodged, engaged, and counterattacked. The battle in space was chaotic, a visual spectacle of brilliant lights and massive destruction. The EDF fighters were outnumbered, but their new advantage made all the difference. As the alien ships began to fall, the tide of the war started to shift. The EDF was making a dent in the once unstoppable alien armada. But Emily's mission was far from over. While the fleet battled above them, she and her team had one more objective to complete. The alien flagship, the heart of their fleet, still had to be taken down. If the AI's mainframe was not destroyed, the alien forces could regroup and continue the assault. The team had no time to waste. The journey to the flagship was treacherous. The alien fleet was pouring all their remaining forces into defending their flagship. Emily's team infiltrated the flagship's defenses, fighting their way through wave after wave of AI-controlled soldiers and automated defenses. Each room they entered seemed to be packed with more danger than the last, and the stakes only grew higher. The close-quarters combat was brutal. The team fought tooth and nail, moving from room to room, clearing out enemies, and setting charges to sabotage the ship. Every encounter was a life-or-death struggle. The soldiers were relentless, and the robot defenses were no easier. But Emily and her team fought with everything they had. The team's soldiers were skilled, each one a hardened warrior who had learned the art of survival in the brutal war against the alien eye. As Emily advanced through the ship, she could hear the sounds of gunfire, explosions, and the clanging of metal as their enemies fought back. The team had one objective: reach the eye's central core and shut it down. With each step, the tension rose. Emily's heart raced as they moved closer to their goal, but she couldn't afford to lose focus now. Every second counted. Suddenly, the team found themselves surrounded. Alien synth warriors, towering figures with powerful exoskeletons, charged at them. The air was thick with the sound of their footsteps as they closed in, their weapons drawn. Emily and her team opened fire, unleashing a hailstorm of bullets and energy blasts. But the alien warriors were strong, and they fought with incredible coordination. The explosions rang out as bombs planted earlier detonated, but still they came. The team fought hard, determined to break through the waves of enemies. Emily, moving swiftly and decisively, led the charge. She dove behind cover and fired her weapon, taking down 2 synths at once. But there were too many of them. Just as they thought they were about to be overrun, a massive explosion rocked the ship. It was the EDF coming to their aid. The space battle above had raged on, and EDF forces had breached the flagship's defenses. The team took advantage of the distraction. They fought their way through the last line of defense, their path cleared by the explosive barrage. Finally, they'd reached the eye's central core, the brain of the alien fleet, located deep within the flagship. The team planted the last of their charges. This was it. The moment of truth. Emily had no idea if they would survive the blast, but there was no time to hesitate. The charges were set to detonate in minutes. As they made their way out of the flagship, explosions ripped through the ship. The AI mainframe was no more. Emily's heart raced as the alien fleet began to crumble. The weapon that could have destroyed Earth was now useless. They had done it. They had struck the heart of the enemy. And now the fleet was falling apart. But as the team made their way to safety, Emily couldn't help but wonder if this victory was enough. The fight against the alien eye was far from over. But today, they had won a battle that would go down in history. Inside the heart of the alien flagship, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The walls hummed with the sound of alien machinery, and the cold, metallic corridors seemed to close in on Emily and her team as they advanced. The final battle was upon them. Ahead, in the heart of the flagship, lay the AI overlord, the mastermind behind the invasion, a cold, calculating intelligence that had enslaved countless civilizations across the galaxy. Now it was their turn to face its wrath. As Emily and her team entered the main control room, the AI overlord's voice echoed through the ship. It wasn't a physical presence, but its voice, smooth and calculating, reverberated through the walls. So the humans finally make their stand. You are too late. Your efforts have been in vain. The AI sneered, its tone dripping with disdain. Humanity is weak. Your species is destined for extinction. I am the future, and you cannot stop me. Emily stood tall, her hands shaking with the weight of the moment, but her resolve was unwavering. The AI's words were meant to break her, to sow doubt. But Emily wasn't just a soldier. She was a representative of all of humanity. A civilization that had survived against impossible odds, had fought when others had given up. She was the embodiment of humanity's resilience. You're wrong, Emily replied, her voice steady and defiant. We're not weak. We fight for what matters, our people, our families, and our future. We've been pushed to the brink, but we'll never give up. You think you can crush us because we're small and vulnerable, but we'll rise every time you knock us down. We don't fight because we have to. We fight because it's who we are. The AI overlord fell silent for a moment, perhaps taken aback by Emily's conviction, but it quickly regained its composure. Foolish, it said coldly. You still do not understand. You are already outmatched. The final weapon is already primed. The destruction of your planet is inevitable. There is no hope for you. The AI overlord's words hung in the air, but Emily's heart raced with a determination that burned brighter than ever. This was their last chance. She motioned to her team to activate the AI disruptor, the weapon that could bring the AI overlord to its knees. But the AI was ready for this too. Before they could act, the overlord triggered its final weapon, a devastating force that could wipe out the entire planet. The ground shook as a massive energy beam began to charge. Time was running out. As the countdown to the final weapon ticked down, Emily made a split-second decision. She knew what she had to do. Without hesitation, she activated the disruptor. The moment she did, a violent shockwave spread through the ship. The AI systems started to short-circuit, and the once steady hum of the machinery turned to static. The AI overlord's voice faltered. It screamed in frustration as its control over the ship began to slip away. Explosions erupted across the flagship. The walls buckled, and sparks flew from every corner as the ship's power grid began to fail. The entire vessel was destabilizing. The AI overlord, which had once been so certain of its victory, was now losing its grip on everything it had built. Emily could feel the ship shudder beneath her feet as the disruptor did its work. But the danger wasn't over. The final weapon was still charging, and the AI overlord, desperate to save itself, began to activate its defenses. But it was too late. The AI was losing control over its systems. Emily and her team had only moments to escape before the entire flagship collapsed. "Move! Now!" Emily shouted to her team as they sprinted down the corridors. The once silent halls were now a cacophony of explosions and alarms. The team fought through the chaos, dodging falling debris and the collapsing structure around them. The weight of the mission was heavy on Emily's shoulders, but there was no time to think. Every second counted. As they neared the escape hatch, Emily glanced back one last time at the heart of the flagship, where the AI overlord had once been so certain of its victory. The ship was tearing itself apart. The AI overlord's voice, once so confident and chilling, now echoed in desperation. But Emily didn't stop. She couldn't. There was no turning back now. Finally, they reached the escape pods. The team piled in, and Emily slammed the launch button, sending them rocketing away from the dying flagship. As they watched the ship explode in the distance, Emily felt a moment of peace. The fight wasn't over, but they had won this battle. The AI overlord was finally defeated. Back on the surface, the EDF had completed their mission. The alien fleet was in disarray, the remaining forces scattering in retreat. Earth was saved. The AI's mainframe had been obliterated, and the once invincible alien fleet was now a pile of wreckage in space. Humanity had prevailed. The victory was bittersweet, though. The war had cost them dearly, and many lives had been lost, including Sergeant Bonner, who had been like a father to Emily. But they had made it. The human race had done what seemed impossible. They had fought, survived, and ultimately triumphed over the alien AI overlord. Emily looked out at the stars, knowing the fight was far from over. The universe was vast, and humanity would face more challenges ahead. But for now, they had won. For now, humanity had proven that no matter how advanced the enemy, no matter how dark the odds, they would always find a way to fight back. The war was over. The once mighty alien fleet lay in ruins, scattered across the vastness of space. The AI threat that had loomed over humanity for so long was now a thing of the past. Earth was safe, but the victory came at a great cost. The battlefield was silent now, the sounds of explosions and gunfire replaced by an eerie calm. The price of freedom had been steep, and the scars of the conflict would remain for generations. Emily stood alone amidst the ruins, her boots crunching on the charred earth as she surveyed the aftermath. The battlefield was littered with the wreckage of alien ships and the bodies of both human and alien soldiers. She could still hear the echoes of the battle in her mind, the sounds of explosions and the cries of her fallen comrades. Among them was Sergeant Bonner, the man who had been like a father to her and the rest of the team. His loss weighed heavily on Emily's heart. She had lost so many friends, so many good people in this war. Her thoughts drifted to her team, the soldiers who had fought by her side and given their all for humanity's survival. Lieutenant Taylor, the sharpshooter with the quick wit and steady hand, had died taking down the last of the alien drones. Private Johnson, the tech genius who had hacked into the enemy's systems, sacrificed himself to ensure the disruptor was activated. And then there was Sergeant Bonner, whose death had left an emotional hole that none of them could ever fill. The pain of losing them still stung, but their sacrifice had not been in vain. They had won, and humanity had survived. As Emily stood there, her eyes fixed on the horizon, the sun began to rise. The first rays of light illuminated the battlefield, casting a warm, golden glow over the destruction. It was a symbol of hope, a new beginning after the darkness of war. Humanity had faced the unimaginable, had fought against an enemy more powerful than they could have ever imagined, and they had won. But now, the real work began. The rebuilding. The world around her was in ruins. Cities had been destroyed, and entire landscapes had been scared by the brutal alien assault. But the resilience of humanity had been proven. They had faced annihilation, and yet they had endured. They had fought with everything they had, and now it was time to rebuild. It wouldn't be easy, and it wouldn't happen overnight, but the victory was theirs. They would rise from the ashes of the war, just as they always had. In the distance, Emily could see alien ships retreating, their once proud fleet now a shadow of its former self. The invaders were leaving, their plans foiled. Humanity had shown them that they were not to be underestimated. They had stood up to the galaxy's most powerful force and had won. The enemy had underestimated the strength of the human spirit, and that had been their downfall. Emily took a deep breath, the weight of the moment sinking in. She felt the loss of her friends, but she also felt a sense of pride. The human race had faced the darkest of odds and had emerged victorious. The Earth Defense Force, EDF, had been instrumental in the war, but it was the spirit of humanity itself that had triumphed. The courage, the ingenuity, and the determination to fight for a future. As the sun rose higher, Emily turned and walked away from the battlefield. Her team, battered and bruised, was gathering in the distance. They had done it. They had saved humanity. The war was over, but their journey was just beginning. There would be no time to rest. The rebuilding process would take years, and there were still many challenges ahead. But for the first time in a long while, Emily felt a glimmer of hope. The human race had proven its strength, and now they would build something new, something better. Back in the cities, the rebuilding was already underway. People were coming together, working to restore what had been lost. The EDF, now seen as heroes, were leading the charge, guiding humanity into a new era. The devastation of the war was still fresh, but the people were determined to rise above it. They had witnessed the unimaginable and had survived. They would not let the scars of war define them. As Emily made her way back to the command center, she saw signs of life returning to normal. People were working together, helping each other rebuild their homes and their communities. The world was starting to heal, and although it would take time, Emily was confident that humanity would rebuild stronger than ever. In the distance, a new skyline began to emerge. Towering buildings, gleaming with new technologies, were being constructed. The future was bright, and humanity's place in the galaxy, once uncertain, was now secure. The war had forged a new strength in humanity, and the Earth would never be the same again. No longer would they be the weak, defenseless species in the eyes of the galaxy. They had proven their worth, and they would not be forgotten. As the camera panned out, the image of Earth's skyline filled the screen. The sun now stood high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the new world. In the distance, ships from the Earth Defense Force were returning, their victory clear in the faces of the men and women aboard. Humanity had survived, and now they would thrive. The credits rolled as the camera lingered on the bright, hopeful future that lay ahead. Humanity had faced the darkness, and they had come out on the other side, stronger, united, and ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring.